experience in Japan over the last few months. Again, we are responding to the pandemic in the same way that other countries have been struggling to do the same. When you think about Japan, oftentimes you think of Japan as a net exporter of technology, and a lot of technology is sent around the world. Also, Japan has been focusing on internationalization of our higher education, promoting global programs to attract large numbers of international students. So we're trying to bring in international students where Japan as an economy exports technology. But when you look at online learning opportunities, Japan significantly lags behind. There are very few fully online learning programs. There are very few blended programs. There are many reasons for this. One is that many universities in Japan are still very much paper-based, particularly for administrative work. If I have to turn in paperwork or research requests, I must sign those physically. It's very difficult to sign anything electronically. And in addition, the concept up until this point has been that in order to work at the university, you must be on campus, you must be in your office or in the classroom. So that physical presence has always been very important. In addition, if you look at the computer usage in Japan, this is a chart, sorry that it's in Japanese, but on the left-hand side, we're talking about the use of personal computers at school. Across the bottom, the use of personal computers at home. And you see the red dot there in the lower left-hand corner, that's Japan, which means that there's very little actual PC use, even at high school level, even at home or at school. And if you look at the differences between the amount of PC use between 2009 and 2018, it actually dropped. You can see Japan there on the very bottom of that list. One of the few countries, Supong can see that even Thailand there at the top actually increased 28 points, but Japan decreased. So partly due because the fact that most students are actually using their mobile telephones and they do not use PCs. And this has an impact for going online because most students do not have the computer skills necessary to make the transition from face-to-face to online. So that was a major concern of many teachers. And all of this changed when the coronavirus, like Thailand, we began experiencing the coronavirus early in the year. Our academic year starts in April, and by that time, there was much talk about all programs going online, and indeed, our programs will continue online in the fall, and even looking ahead into the spring, that programs will be fully online. Now, this resulted in a tremendous amount of stress for our teachers. Our teachers, myself included, were not prepared to go online. We did not have the technical skills or the experience. In fact, one newspaper reported that over 50% of teachers experienced such extreme stress that they would classify in the area of karoshi, which is the death by work in Japan because of so much overtime. So it was a tremendous strain on teachers. And I particularly wanted to understand what was, prior to this presentation, I wanted to understand what was happening with the teachers. What were their experiences? So I had the opportunity to interview 30 teachers at universities across the country from Japan, from Hokkaido to Okinawa. And that's what I'm going to speak a little bit about today. Teachers were particularly concerned about their abilities to use the technology. Some teachers had never used technology. Some had been using technology effectively. They were also wondering how could they transition from face-to-face to online learning environments. They were also concerned about the students' computer skills. As I mentioned, most students come to university without basic computer skill abilities. Like the president mentioned earlier, Wi-Fi access was a concern, and also data load. Zoom, as we all know, Zoom is a very heavy program, particularly with all the videos. So we were concerned about the data load and the cost of those data loads. And we were wondering how administrations would react. What occurred actually during the semester is that many teachers had a much more positive experience than they imagined. Students' access to Wi-Fi, data, and devices were not an issue. About 10% of students that were in courses did have some connectivity issues. Using a smartphone is not as accessible via Zoom or Microsoft Teams as a desktop computer, laptop computer, or even a tablet. So there were some issues there. Many teachers were excited by the opportunity because it challenged them to learn something new, to expand their skills, to develop their skills much further than what they had done in the past. So ironically, many teachers were very concerned about the transition, but in reality, after the first semester was complete, looking back, the transition was actually much more positive and smoother than what most teachers anticipated. Unlike the pictures that Supong showed you, we are fully online here in Japan. I have only been to my university twice for about 20 minutes each since April. So all of our courses are online. And in fact, some of my students in my graduate program are international students. They were unable to come back to Japan or were unable to attend. So in my Zoom class, I actually have students here in Japan, but students also, one student in Nepal, and also students from Los Angeles, Singapore, Malaysia, and Sri Lanka. So luckily, that whole process has been very successful. Preparation was extensive. Myself and other teachers had to consider how to make that transition, how to shift from a face-to-face learning environment, adapt materials, and place that online so that students could continue to be engaged. Also, from the administrative point of view, many universities were hesitant to make a decision to go online. Luckily, my university made a very clear, very decisive decision early on. So we went on and we were not delayed in our semester. Other universities were delayed for over a month, and that pushed them into the summer holiday. So the decisiveness of the administration was extremely important. Technical issues were not particularly important. Student skills were very low at the beginning, but what we learned is that our students learned very quickly and picked up those skills. One of the teachers actually mentioned that he had underestimated his students for years, that actually they're capable of much more than he imagined. And I think that was something that many teachers realized. One of the points that teachers said that who were successful in making the transition was that teacher communities were extremely important. Not only institutional workshops and technical support, but departmental colleagues working together and sharing information was extremely important. One teacher reported that they are no longer just teaching in the same department, but they are true colleagues, particularly online support. And one that was repeatedly mentioned by the teachers that I interviewed was Online Teaching Japan. This is a Facebook group that is open to anyone. It has over 2,000 members now, and this was a go-to location for many teachers when they were struggling and trying to understand how to use different apps, different programs, etc. There are also a number of workshops that have been recorded, but this becomes an online community that's very, very productive. My particular interest, if you've happened to catch one of my presentations at a NELTA conference, is 21st century skills and critical thinking, collaboration, and creativity. I was particularly interested in how teachers could move that 21st century skills on to an online platform. And many teachers were very successful. Critical thinking was accomplished by students bringing in newspaper articles, analyzing problems related to endangered species, looking at other social issues, and going through a step-by-step process to determine solutions or come up with opinions about those particular ideas. Collaboration in some ways was actually increased because students were focused on the screen. There was less distractions, and they were able to work effectively, and they created their own Zoom workshops with each other so that they could collaborate on activities. Creativity was increased in some, or adapted in some cases. I have one teacher that focuses on drama, which of course is a physical, you need to be physically present, but in his case, he actually shifted to doing an online, like a radio drama, and was able to do that. And with communication, many teachers spoke very positively about the Zoom breakout rooms and used those very effectively. So there's definitely the new normal. Teachers will continue to use technology. We will never go back to a only traditional system. We'll be looking at blended, hybrid, and asynchronous opportunities. And that's going to expand learner opportunities in the same way that some of the other presenters have already spoke about. An important point, and Hodges et al. Just in 2020 have indicated a reminder that remote emergency teaching is not necessarily online learning. Remote emergency teaching is a emergency response, and I think that is what many of us have been going through, an emergency response. But now that we're moving in to our second semester, we actually need to look at more critical analysis of what we are doing. We need to analyze our context, our input, the process and the product of our online learning and experiences. And many teachers are looking ahead now, not in a crisis mode, but looking at different opportunities. No longer is the idea in Japan is that you have to be in your office or in a meeting physically to be able to be productive. That has been clearly, that myth has been clearly banished. And so that will have significant changes. Even in my own program, in my master's program, we are actually going to be looking at doing a blended online program in conjunction with our face-to-face program. And that's going to be happening sometime soon. So again, we hope to send opportunities elsewhere. Again, JALT 2020 will be a fully online conference this November.
Sorry to interrupt.
Couple more minutes.
You have 5 minutes. 5 minutes.
5 minutes. Okay, I got lots of time. All right. So our JALT conference will be a fully online conference, and that's going to allow us to expand from our typical 3 or 4 day conference to almost a week of presentations, which are going to be asynchronous. They're going to be videotape presentations in the week prior, and it will give access to our conference participants to all videotape presentations and the presentation materials for up to 30 or 60 days after the conference. And this is something that we've never had the opportunity to do. In addition, we're going to be looking at, if you look at the JALT 2020 registration, there are a special registration at a discounted rate for our global professionals. And that is based on the TESOL Global Membership, the TESOL International Association Global Membership. So we're hoping to be able to expand and provide access to communities that have never had access before. We're actually, again, moving from a crisis mode to looking at opportunities. And this is an opportunity for us to actually share more of what's happening in Japan than ever before. So in reality, when we first heard of going online and the coronavirus pandemic in early April, teachers across Japan, myself included, were very concerned and wondering if our programs would be successful. The process was not easy. The process was extremely difficult. Took a tremendous amount of preparation and a tremendous amount of skill development. But looking back, that was a very positive opportunity. And the teachers that I spoke to, we think the future is bright. Technology is here to stay, blended, asynchronous, synchronous. online learning is here to stay. And now there are many more opportunities than challenges facing all of us here in Japan, and I would imagine those around the world. So thank you very much. And if you have any questions, there's my email.
Okay.
But